What If introduced us to perhaps one of the most nefarious and dangerous opponents in the history of the MCU, a being known as Infinity Ultron, who made his debut all the way back in episode 7 of What If, yet he is still relevant enough that we continue to talk about him not just here on the channel, but in our own personal social circles as well. We watched Ultron lay waste to the entirety of his universe, one planet at a time, with the might of the Infinity Stones by his side. But in the finale episode, he was seemingly defeated by the newly established Guardians of the Multiverse. Those who understand the lore of the comic universe, however, will know that nobody is ever truly dead, and Ultron in particular is one of the most notorious embodiments of this comic book trope. Ultron has an affinity for being particularly difficult to kill in the comics, and nearly impossible to get rid of forever, so it stands to reason that this might be the case in the MCU as well, and there may be evidence to support this claim. So stick with us today, watchers of the Marvel Multiverse, as we delve into some of the possibilities for how Ultron could have feasibly survived, and look at some of the claims and reports that he might actually be making a resurgence in the coming years. The primary piece of evidence comes from an unconfirmed leak according to the Direct that claims that Ultron's sentries will be appearing again in the upcoming Multiverse of Madness film, or Doctor Strange 2. But what's interesting to note is that this report does not claim that Ultron will return, but only that his drones will be making a reappearance. The Direct specifically goes on record to state, quote, "According to our sources, the sub-Ultrons will come from a different universe that Stephen Strange visits during his multiverse adventure." Though these sources are again confidential and have not been named, we will be exploring what this might mean for both What If and the Multiverse of Madness if they do end up being true. But as usual, please take these unverified claims with a grain of salt. If what the Direct claims is true, however, then this could hint at a few different possibilities that we'll be exploring today. The first of which revolves around the status of famed Hydra researcher Arnim Zola. In the finale of What If, Ultron was crippled when the virus of Zola's mind was uploaded into Ultron and proceeded to dismantle him from the inside out, ravaging his code and taking over his body. If Zola is able to link to Ultron's sentries wirelessly through the main body that he now inhabits and shares with Infinity Ultron, then it could mean that it might in fact not be Ultron in control of these drones, but it may in fact be Arnim Zola himself. This means that while the bodies of the sentries would hypothetically be the remains of the final battle in What If, they would be under the control of the disembodied consciousness of Arnim Zola, and would in turn serve his own agenda, whatever that may end up being in the long term. If on the other hand, Zola only succeeded in destroying Ultron's primary body long enough for the team to separate Ultron from the Infinity Stones, then Ultron's consciousness might still be in control of these sentries after the body of Vision was corrupted by Zola's algorithm. We know that Ultron can survive without his main body being intact. As in Age of Ultron, we are able to see that since he is simply a consciousness and a program, he can inhabit any body he so desires. He first takes over the scrapped remains of the Iron Legion, before upgrading himself throughout the course of Age of Ultron. Even when his main body is destroyed, he shares one final conversation with the Vision by using the ravaged remains of his last drone, before it's ultimately destroyed by the Vision himself. What this could mean, however, is that his greatest source of power has been taken away from him, as he is no longer in possession of his precious Infinity Stones. With this limitation on his power, he may be more susceptible to being overpowered or defeated by the likes of Doctor Strange or Wanda Maximoff, as they traverse the multiverse on their next big adventure. After all, Ultron is unlikely to be at the forefront of their story in Doctor Strange 2, and their objective is likely far wider than simply defeating Ultron yet again. If he is just another stop on their journey, his sentries could be easy enough to defeat that he doesn't sidetrack from the main plot, but difficult enough to pose a significant, albeit temporary, challenge to the Sorcerer Supreme. The next possibility is that the Ultron sentries that are set to make an appearance in Multiverse of Madness are not actually the same drones that were created by Infinity Ultron. Though it is most likely that they will be, we still need at least to acknowledge the possibility that these sentries are from a different reality entirely. If Ultron's victory is an uncertain occurrence, then it stands to reason that Infinity Ultron in his universe that we see in What If series isn't the only reality where Ultron won, and now his sentries control the planet with an iron fist. Though the series of events between his victory and his discovery of the multiverse would likely be different in order to explain why only one Prime Ultron attacked the Watcher, it is still a possible scenario that is worth at least exploring, if nothing else. We know that in the comics, Ultron is notoriously difficult to kill, and he is bound to make a resurgence even after his supposed demise in What If. and it is not unreasonable to assume that this MCU variant of Ultron may serve as a long-term plague on our heroes, who is inevitably destined to ultimately return once again. After all, he has already made this significant of a resurgence 6 years after the events of Age of Ultron, and with this iteration generally being more widely accepted and more widely liked than his previous incarnation, it becomes increasingly likely with a character this popular that it is ultimately destined for him to reappear on our screens at some point in the future of the MCU. And with the multiverse now open, anything is possible. At the end of What If, Ultron as a consciousness is still out there, and he has countless drones from his home reality, drones that we do not know the whereabouts of in between episode 8 and 9, meaning his drones themselves could have gone somewhere throughout the multiverse and escaped their home reality. We also know, as we pointed out earlier, that Ultron's consciousness is susceptible to being moved around, and it's impossible that Arnim Zola actually defeated Ultron by just destroying his prime body, which was in possession of the Infinity Stones. Ultron himself, Infinity Ultron, that consciousness, is still out there somewhere in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And although he may not be in possession of any of the Infinity Stones at this point in time, with Killmonger, Arnim Zola, and Ultron all caught in conflict with one another, Ultron himself is still likely out there somewhere. Anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on this? And do you think we will ever see Infinity Ultron again in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Would you like to see Ultron return in some capacity again? And if so, would you like it to be Infinity Ultron, or would you like to see the primary Ultron from 2015? If neither, are there any iterations of Ultron from the comics that you'd like to see make an appearance in the MCU, if not Prime nor Infinity Ultron? Again, my friends, hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and have a great day.